So what I'll now do is I've taken a lot of liberty with the two gentlemen in the room who are on my right and extreme left. So because he's from my organization, so over to the single window. I would call him an icon because he's done a lot of hard work and he's taken his work forward from the people who created this. But he was also in the team which created this project. So hats off to the team, and I'm very proud to introduce Aftab for the work he has done and the excellent gentleman that he is for his take on the session and the objective of why we are here. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your very kind words. It's truly humbling to be part of this event because there are a lot of gurus around, and I must admit that I have zero knowledge about IT. I don't have an IT background. By training, I am a customs officer, or used to be a customs officer. I quit service in 2021 to take over as the CEO of the Pakistan Single Window, and have been associated with this project since 2017. We think that Pakistan Single Window is a truly transformative initiative that has come out of the public sector. Usually we deliver sessions on single window success, which I'm not going to do now. I just have 3 thoughts to offer, and I'm going to take advantage of my position as being the team lead for a system that is being led by the federal government, which is the Pakistan Single Window system, integrating 77 government agencies, regulating cross-border trade, other than a number of private sector providers. And also as the CEO of the Pakistan Single Window Company, which is a state-owned enterprise, but works in a very corporate way. So just as an aside, our motto in Single Window is to do everything that the government doesn't do and avoid everything that the government does. So, and that puts me in a very unique position because I am part of the government, but at the same time, I'm trying to take lessons from the private sector. So most of the practices that we have in the company are from the private sector. And therefore, that also gives me some perspective on how the government thinks when we are talking about digital transformation. So like I said, I have just 3 thoughts. Number one, and I think that would echo most of the ideas that have already been expressed by the participants here. I particularly noted what Jahan Ara was saying about digitalization of government services. I've also taken copious notes that I'm going to use in my work, when I go back. So thought number one is that people have to be at the center of the digital transformation initiative. You just can't imagine to have a strategy which doesn't include people as the core of your strategy. And when we talk about that from a government perspective, it has several different dimensions. It means that you need to give the right kind of training, the right kind of skill building, and the right kind of opportunities for people to take advantage of the digital transformations journey, but also protect them from any potential harm. It also means that you have to cover the digital divide. You may have to make sure that marginalized communities, women or other people who are living in remote areas probably don't have access to internet, are not excluded and are protected in some way. On a more operational level, and this I see every day in my work, is that when you build systems, they have to be user-driven, not just user-centric. User-centric would probably mean that you keep the requirements of the user, you think about those requirements and you build a system around that. But user-driven would be going beyond that and letting the people and the actual users participate in the design of that system. So that's number one. Number two is that the government, of course, has to invest in digital infrastructure. And we have heard about how the industry is actually facing those challenges in hardcore, tangible digital infrastructure. But I think somebody from Ignite made that point, and I think that is also equally important. You need to have governance frameworks on how you're going to manage data, how you're going to manage IT. Unfortunately, that is not realized very well, at least on the government side. And my take on that is because digitalization is usually taken as a buzzword, as a very technical concept that has to be introduced. It has never been taken as a core transformative element of your policy. So digitization is not really embedded in government policies. It's the other way around. Policies are formulated and then some service provider would be asked to create a system on that. And that brings me to my third thought, that it's equally important for the government not to enable the IT environment, make sure that the capital markets are fostered enough so that startups and new businesses have access to capital to take advantage of those technologies. But it's also important that the government itself adopts technology to improve governance and service delivery. But what happens in most of these cases is that the government uses IT as a substitute for bad policies. And I, from a single window perspective, can tell you I've been working with so many departments. Alhamdulillah, we have integrated 15 departments so far. IT is just not a substitute for bad policies. You really need to rethink, reconsider the policies that you are implementing, whether it's in a niche market like ours, which is cross-border trade, or it goes for a broader user base. And why that happens is because most of the time policies are built in isolation. There is no stakeholder consultation. The people who are making those policies actually really have no exposure or idea of the situation on the ground, or really would not like to spend the time on having those consultations. And once those policies are developed, they are just not implementable. We heard that word a lot. Policies are not being implemented, but are the policies really implementable? Do they really address the different needs of the users? And then, of course, IT in Pakistan is basically working on silos. In silos, I've come across situations where we went to a department to digitalize their business processes related to cross-border trade, and we found out that there were already systems in place over there which no one was using. And then you find out that government departments have been spending millions on a project which would hardly take, a fraction of that cost if we are doing it. And not saying that because we do it better, we just understand how much would it cost to create a system that provides that particular service. In single window, what we have done, and I'm just going to wrap up, is that basically we have taken cognizance of all these issues, and we're trying to mitigate them on our own end. So, for example, we have a very active change management program. We reach out to about 600 to 700 people, which include public and private sector stakeholders, in making sure that the message is going out. We are managing the change. People are not afraid of digitalization. We have a very active gender component to make sure that if women lag from digital literacy, assuming that they lag from digital literacy, we are facilitating them in kind of covering up that gap so they could be part of the international supply chain. The way we design our systems is not we going out and imposing a solution. It's working with the government sector, validating their input with the private sector, and then coming up with a system design that is built with consensus, and then making sure that it's a very agile approach in changing those systems. So these are some of the lessons that we have incorporated. Final point: collaboration, coordination, connectivity, that have been our guiding principles in single window, and that is something that we believe can be replicated on a more broader level by the government. The Ministry of IT is there to take the lead for digital transformation. We on the ground are getting some insights on how it can be done, and we assure the IT sector as well as the government sector of our full support on sharing our experience and whatever support we can provide. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aftab. That was very smart and very quick. Single window is really the poster child of success within the public sector. So, I mean, in the world of SOEs that are not performing, we have a bright example. Another one that we have established, I would like to mention, is National Disaster Risk Management Fund. So I wanted to mention that that's also working and doing well.